And welcome to another podcast edition of Rosen Sports Monday on this post-Super Bowl Monday. My special guest, Jim Souhan, and we're here to discuss a lot of the ongoing topics in the wide world of sports in the state of Minnesota and beyond, with the Olympics going on, post-Super Bowl, everything that's happening. And Jim, good morning. Thanks for coming in. Of course, fresh from the game last night, the Seattle Seahawks did what they were supposed to do as 4.5-point favorites, except they did it more convincingly, especially on defense. And the New England Patriots look like a little kid trying to swim his way out of the deep end. I mean, they were in over their head, and Drake May, as great as he's been, all season on all the plaudits, he looked like he was not ready for the moment last night.
I just think the Seahawks defense is exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you look at Drake May's postseason performance, and Drake May had a great regular season, and he's a wonderful young player, but this is just a different level of competition to face the Seahawks, who had a great defensive coach who had 2 weeks to prepare for you. And I went into the game thinking, for the Patriots to have any chance, they're going to have to force turnovers, and they're going to have May play the game of his life. And they didn't force turnovers, and May didn't come close to playing the game of his life.
Yeah, we watched in the course of this Viking season some really shoddy quarterback play. When you say to yourself, is it that difficult to complete a 7-8 yard out pattern, to Justin Jefferson, or just a pass over the middle? I'm not talking about 60-yard bombs or anything. And I think we saw that last night. I mean, you could almost hear the frustration of Collinsworth in particular, going, can May just complete a pass and just move the chains a little bit? Everything was so difficult for him. And I know Seattle has a phenomenal defense, but come on. I mean, he couldn't do anything. He looked shell-shocked.
He did. And, Seattle, in a way, this is one of the reasons the NFL is so popular, right? Seahawks have been kind of a middling team for a long time, and sometimes a bad team and kind of a frustrating team since their last Super Bowl appearance. They hire a good coach. This is the part of the story I love. Geno Smith, they want Geno Smith to be their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Geno says, no, I'm going to go play for Pete Carroll in Vegas. So he forces a trade. They go, okay, I guess we're stuck with Darnold. Then they go win the Super Bowl because the coach is that good and Darnold was good enough. And I know what all the memes and all the easy analysis is today. It's, oh my God, Vikings let go the guy who won the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold didn't win the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold avoided losing the Super Bowl. That team won the Super Bowl, and Darnold just didn't screw up.
He kind of admitted that after the game as well. He even,
which is what I like about him. I think he's a pretty humble guy.
He's terrific. I mean, he says all the right things. Credits his parents for sticking by him, which is like everyone in the world listening to that, no matter what field of occupation you're in, loves to hear that story, giving credit to your parents for continuing.
I blame my parents for not making me a Super Bowl quarterback. That's the way I look at it.
Well, something will happen along the line. But he admitted, I mean, normally the MVP goes to the Super Bowl, the quarterback. And there was no conversation, I think, about last night that he was even in the running.
He was behind the kicker.
Yeah. And nothing against Sam Darnold, but because the team was so good, the defense was so good. So in order, and this is human nature, and I know a lot of Viking fans feel that way, because Darnold led his team to the Super Bowl. We know what happened here a year ago and what happened in the Detroit game when they could have clinched a home field advantage, in the Rams playoff game. People going, oh, we should have known. It's different circumstances, different team. This Seattle team was vastly superior to the Vikings team in a lot of areas, running the ball, their offensive line, their defense overall. I mean, the Vikings defense was pretty damn efficient, especially at the end of the year. But this is not the same type of quality team that they had.
No, Darnold would have gotten this team. If Darnold hadn't gotten hurt behind this offensive line, Darnold would have gotten this Vikings team to the playoffs, and then they would have lost to Seattle or the Rams or somebody like that. So it is interesting because as we analyze playoff, it's like that's the first thing you talk about, right? Making the playoffs. Now we see Mike Tomlin basically walking away from a team that he got to the playoffs almost every year. We see Jim Harbaugh fired, even though he got his team to the playoffs almost every year. So many teams make the playoffs now. It's not the accomplishment you used to think of. Getting the team to the playoffs is not a great accomplishment. No. It's kind of the starting point now.
Well, and there's no reason to believe that Seattle is going to be able to continue on this road. You look at the list of free agents that they have right now. It's the life of the NFL. New England was a miserable team just a couple of years ago. They were able to put pieces together. They had some high draft picks. Seattle's drafted exceedingly well.
John Schneider and Trent Kirchner.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, when you look at what Minnesota has to do moving forward, we'll get into that a little bit, but it's not to suggest that Seattle should be the favorites even next year.
No.
It just doesn't work that way.
No. And the Rams almost beat them twice in Seattle, and those two close losses end up I thought the Rams were the best team in the NFL this year.
Mm-hmm.
They just credit Seattle and credit. Here's where I really credit Darnold.
Yeah.
He led the NFL in turnovers. After a very good first half, he had a very mediocre second half. Rams go up to play Seattle late in the season, pretty much for the number 1 seed. Rams look like they've seized control of the game. Looks like they're going to win it. And looks like Darnold is back to choking the way he did at the end of last year. And something happened. And that's why we love sports, because you can't predict this stuff. Mm-hmm. At that moment where it looked like Seattle was going to be 2-3 seed, whatever, maybe, I guess the way it works, maybe a 5 or 6 seed, and Darnold is going in the tank, they find a way to get to overtime, and Darnold plays great in the overtime, and then he plays great in the NFC Championship game. And those were those two victories against the Rams erased any negatives from his past and got the Seahawks in the position where they were going to win a Super Bowl with their defense.
And they did, and that's exactly what they did. And listen, speaking of their defense and everything else, we can credit a lot of different people, but I think I'd like to acknowledge and congratulations to Leslie Frazier, being part of that staff for the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we both had a lot of associations and worked with Leslie when he was here. Didn't have the most talent as a head coach, but
he had a bad roster, and he got Christian Ponder to the playoffs.
I know.
He's the only coach in NFL history to get Christian Ponder to the playoffs.
And I know that it's a cliche when we were around a lot of coaches and athletes to say, man, what a nice dude. What a nice guy. What an upstanding. Leslie Frazier is one of those guys. So was it 40-some years between Super Bowl? He was a member, of course, of the Chicago Bears team in 85. Defensive back, part of that, Walter Payton, Refrigerator Perry. That talk about defense is the consummate, ultimate great defense. But for Leslie Frazier to kind of resurface again after some tough times coaching as an assistant coach with Seattle, he's got the ring. Good for him.
I can't remember. It might have been after. It was either before 2012 or right after 2012. I went down to Mississippi with Leslie to see where he grew up.
Really?
Columbus, Mississippi area. And he took me to his childhood home. It was a
fascinating
wooden shack that had since been burned down. He grew up with absolutely nothing.
Man, kind of like Johnny Randall's story.
In the poorest, most decrepit state in the United States. I mean, everybody in the South, if you're from Alabama or Georgia or Louisiana, the line down there in the South is, thank God for Mississippi, because Mississippi's always going to rank 50th in welfare, 50 in economics, and 50th in education. So everybody in the South thanks Mississippi because they know they'll never be worse than Mississippi. Leslie Frazier grew up in a shack in Mississippi and became, not only have this incredible career, but he is truly one of the classiest people I've ever met.
Well, and it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm saying unfortunate. He's got a good job. He's had a hell of a career, but with all the coaching changes in the NFL, head coaching changes, his name's not being mentioned. It seems as if that's not going to happen to get another opportunity, which, at least to get into an interview situation would be nice, because I think, he's certainly capable. He's a great leader of men. The players respect him. He does it in a quiet leadership way, but it doesn't seem like it's in the cards for him. But
no, I think his time has passed, sadly. Yeah. And here's the deal. And this is kind of the inside story that not many people really say out loud. The Childress era ended in a bleep show, right? Mm-hmm. It was always going to end badly with Brad Childress. I mean, he almost got a team to a Super Bowl, but the way that championship game ended with 12 men on the field and the lack of respect Childress had from certain people in that organization, including Brett Favre, when things went south, they were going to go south hard. So it goes south for Childress. They put in Frazier as an interim coach. And really, what people behind the scenes will tell you, they didn't do it because they had plans on Leslie Frazier being their coach for a long time. They just wanted somebody who would settle things down. So they hired Leslie. He settles things down at the end of 2011. He gets them to the playoffs in 2012 against all odds. They did not think they had a playoff roster. Leslie overcame all the odds to get them to the playoffs. Then Ponder's hurt in the playoff game, so they lose the playoff game in Green Bay. Right. And then the next year, Ponder just falls apart and they can't function, right? It wasn't Leslie's fault. And they fire him and go out looking for the guy they really wanted. They wanted a Mike Zimmer type. But Leslie didn't get a fair shot here. And he should have gotten another shot someplace else.
So I was at a Super Bowl party, which I normally have avoided all these years, most of the time because I've been working. But I was at, I'm going to get a ding, as they say, on Andy Luger's house. And we were up on the people who are serious about watching the game go up to the third floor. So there's, in theory, not allowed to have talking. But I'm telling you, could have heard a pin drop. The game was not very exciting, as we know. There were very few plays that were made. The halftime show with Bad Bunny and all the publicity he had ahead of time. Honestly, I've never watched him perform before. I was hypnotized by the performance, the showmanship, just the entire production. It was astonishing to see that on a football field, how quickly they put that together. But I thought it was one of the best halftime shows I'd ever seen.
I agree. I was lucky. I covered the game in Miami when Prince did the halftime show in the rain. And also the better part of that was every Wednesday during Super Bowl week in the old days,
right?
The halftime entertainment would hold a press conference.
That was a great Sid story.
So should I tell it?
Go right ahead.
I'll tell it briefly. Here's the brief story. Okay. Kevin Seifert and I are sitting in the media room, and we're like, okay, time to go to the Prince press conference, right? And usually the press conferences were terrible. They were just sports writers talking to a musician who didn't want to be there, usually. We're like, we got to go to Prince, though, right? It's down. Sure. It's on the other side of the convention center in Miami. So Kevin Seifert and I start walking, and here's this entourage, huge, like it looked like a football team surrounding a little person you couldn't see coming down the hallway, right? And here comes Sid Hartman rushing up, and it looks like
great guy.
It looks like the bouncers in front are going to beat the crap out of Sid. Because they're like, nobody approaches Prince's entourage, right? So I think Sid's about to get beat up. And he goes, hey, Mr. Prince, Mr. Prince, hey, Mr. Prince, Sid Hartman, Minneapolis Star Tribune. I just want to talk to you for a minute. And all these guys are flexing, getting ready to beat him up, push him out of the way. And you hear this voice go, let him through.
Yeah.
Sid goes in, asks his three stupid questions of Prince, just so he can prove.
He called Mr. Hartman, I think.
And he called him Mr. Hartman. Said, yes, Mr. Hartman. Yes, I did play high school basketball. Yes, I'm excited to be doing this. And so Sid gets his way, as he always did. Then Prince and the entourage go to the back door to the room that we're coming in. We walk in and we realize this is set up for a band. It's not a press conference.
Wow.
Kevin's sitting in the front row. I'm sitting in the left row. If you look at the YouTube video, you can see Kevin Seifert sitting front row. I'm off camera, like back over his left shoulder. Prince goes up there, goes, no questions. And they rip into a 10-song concert.
At the news conference.
And it was just Prince wailing on the guitar.
You guys, your jaws must have dropped.
It was fantastic. It was unbelievable. And then the halftime show was much better.
In the rain.
The halftime show was the best halftime show of all time. Yeah. Here's the thing about Bad Bunny. I'm cracking up the people saying, I didn't understand what he's saying. You know how I'm a musician who studies lyrics. Mm-hmm. You know how many musical lyrics have been written that make no sense at all? The band Oasis was the number one band in the world for a long time.
Right.
If you ever read their lyrics without music, they make no sense. Mm-hmm. Make absolutely no sense. So I thought it was a beautiful halftime. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was inclusive. And the fact that he gave his Grammy to Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old who was kidnapped and deported by ICE. I mean, if the music had been terrible and he'd done that, I would have been highly in favor.
I think that story's been debunked.
Really?
Yeah, that it was not him, but
it looked like him.
It did,
Man.
but I understand the family said that, but what it represented was giving his Grammy to his younger self.
Okay, my bad.
Which that's okay. Yeah. I think everybody thought that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting there watching it with a lot of high-powered people. Right. Good for me. And I thought, well, they're climbing up on electrical, and I think that was a tribute to the people who had to survive in Puerto Rico when the power went off for like 90 days.
Yep, and we didn't help them.
No, correct. And I love my favorite part when we talk about Prince halftime show. For the most part, social media didn't exist then. Yesterday, this is my favorite part of it, and this is why it's such a sewer out there in social media. I'm not watching the halftime show. I'm not watching it. I'm doing that, whatever it might be. I'm going, why are you telling me you're not watching it? I don't care. Nobody cares if you're not. If you want to watch it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But don't tell people you're not watching it. It's just the dumbest thing in the world.
It's so stupid.
It's so stupid. So I guess the final part of the Darnold equation is, what did the Vikings learn out of this whole last couple of years as we move forward post Kwesi era, which is, still a bit stunning, but he's gone. He went to the Senior Bowl, and then the GM got fired right after that. The quarterback situation is going to still be the topic A, B, C, and D for the Vikings as they approach everything from the combine to the draft, free agency, everything else. Here we go again. It's not going to take long, and it's going to get all revved up, Jim.
Oh, yeah. Lessons learned, that's the hardest question to answer.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I was on board with them taking McCarthy. I was on board with them playing McCarthy this year. I still think McCarthy has a chance to be very good. And if you trade up to get a guy with the 10th pick in the draft, he's going to play. He's going to play. It's the way it is. What I would say is, if you want to really pull the camera way back, maybe you don't want to base your quarterback hopes for the next 5 to 10 years on the 4th or 5th or 6th best quarterback you can get in a particular draft.
Yeah, that's true. And now as we search for the veteran backup, it's going to happen. I mean, even hearing whispers that Kirk Cousins potentially could come back. There's all
that would actually make some sense.
And you think about it, like, come on, he's not coming home, but it kind of
He's been humbled. I don't know if somebody's going to give him a starting job.
No,
listen, if he can get a starting job someplace, he goes, and that's fine and good for him. But man,
it's cheap.
It makes some sense, and here's why it makes sense: because he's coming off of a year where he was backup, and he ended up playing well as a backup. But he's backup. He's made all of his money. What you need is a situation here where McCarthy can go into camp thinking that he is the guy, and the backup can go into the competition saying, I think I'm the guy, and then let it play out. What you don't want is McCarthy feeling like, okay, I'm number 2, and be completely deflated by that. And you also don't want somebody who's not a good enough quarterback to take over if he needs to be the starter. So you need somebody in that very, very narrow niche.
How are these power dynamics going to work out as we approach with Rob Brzezinski in charge for now? They say they're going to name. I don't think Rob actually wants the GM job. That's just my own opinion. But they'll be going after someone. But in the meantime, they have other people, obviously pro personnel, and looking at the whole thing, how this is going to flush out with KOC firmly in the bullseye of what needs to get done with McCarthy and the whole team, really, because they've got some work to do just to compete in this very competitive division.
Everybody loves Rob Brzezinski. He is a great guy. He's excellent at his job. He is liked and respected throughout the organization. I think you need a personnel person to be running things. And here's the other thing. Behind the scenes, what you always heard was that Flores was really the person who said, we should go get that player. We should go get that player. O'Connell was the guy who basically drafted Addison, and he had a major say in McCarthy. So, I always felt like Kwesi was kind of more of an overseer than an evaluator. So in that way, it doesn't really necessarily change that much in the short term. I think long term, you want a personnel guy in that role, though. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. And, you always say this coach or that coach has a short leash, but, I think KOC definitely it's on him because of the quarterback situation right now. And it should be, and he should be the first one to admit, and he will admit it. Pressure's on because you just can't wait that much longer without having a playoff victory on your resume to go this long, not to have it done. Listen, a lot more to talk about. I want to hear from our friend Charlie Swanson, Lexus of Wayzata in Maple. We'll take a break, come back and talk about another soap opera in town, the Minnesota Timberwolves, Olympics going on, what happened to Lindsey Vonn, and a lot more. Stay with us here on Rosen Sports Monday. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today. And welcome back to Rosen Sports Monday. Jim Souhan, my special guest today, as we recap the Super Bowl, look ahead to the Vikings, which is an ongoing topic 365 days a year. And Jim, I got to tell you what happened over the weekend at Target Center, and I'm watching the game yesterday afternoon before the Super Bowl, the Timberwolves getting thumped at home by Kawhi Leonard playing like he turned the clock back about 10 years. And this in the wake of blowing an 18-point lead against New Orleans on Friday night at home. They come back and play on Sunday afternoon. Just look disinterested and out of sync and out of whatever. I don't know. Rudy Gobert is calling out teammates to coach on the other night. Chris Finch wasn't thrilled about all that, but the bottom line is they play again tonight against Atlanta. And I know it's just kind of the dog days of the season. You can come up with any excuse you want, but this team, after some really impressive wins, looks like a shell of themselves at the moment.
I'm usually the person who's, whether it's podcasts or radio hits or writing, telling people, listen, it's an 82-game season.
Yes.
Everybody has lulls. This is different.
It feels different.
This is the first time under Finch. Finch has a really good relationship with his players. He's a very good communicator.
Mm-hmm.
And usually players kind of mimic what he's told them, and what they kind of all get their story straight, and then they all are on the same page when talking to the media. This is the first time a player who Finch has been completely supportive of has gone away from the team message and said, Finch has got to do this, and these guys aren't playing hard enough. This is serious. It's not necessarily fatal, but it's the first time you can look at it and say something is not right in that locker room, because it's been a pretty good locker room.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very likable locker room. It's also fascinating. Just as Ant is kind of pushing forward offensively and making himself kind of an MVP candidate, he has his teammates saying, damaging his MVP campaign by saying, you're not playing any defense.
Yeah, it was striking. And watching that game yesterday, is this the same team that just beat Oklahoma City, and they look like it could beat anyone. They can beat anybody in the league. But then you look at Jade McDaniel, I think took 2 shots or something. He looked completely disinterested. They just Finch could do nothing. Their bench is they've obviously bolstered their bench a little bit with the trade with the Bulls. Conley's not back yet. Not that that's going to make a huge difference, but there was something about the body language. I mean, that's the thing I noticed yesterday more than the actual result. And we'll see, because the beauty of the NBA schedule is they got another one tonight against Atlanta at home, and they got a couple more games at home before the All-Star break. But it's not like they can't be corrected, and maybe it is the malaise of post-trade deadline, blah, blah, blah. These guys are pros. They got to figure out a way after blowing an 18-point lead against a bad New Orleans team to come back and just get thumped at home like that.
I think it's time for Anthony Edwards to start acting like a leader.
Mm-hmm.
He has been a leader of sorts in performance and taking big shots, but you can't be a leader if you're not going to play defense. You can't be a leader if your teammate don't trust you, and obviously Gobert does not trust him right now. This is a very interesting tipping point for him. And if Ant turns it on and gets him out of this and plays really hard and plays defense, he could be an MVP this year. He could also end up being a very disappointing star if he doesn't do those things.
How hands-on do you think Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez are in the context when you have an issue like this going on right now, which is, again, it's not panic-driven, but at the same time, there are warning signs that thinking, well, maybe there's some cracks in the foundation. How active are they involved in the discussions, meeting with Finch, whether Chris Finch is on the hot seat or not, all those things that happen, but just from an ownership standpoint that we really don't know how they operate behind the shadows.
I still don't know exactly. What we know, what I have heard, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes right now. What I have heard, and by the way, listen to the John Krasinski show. He tends to give us really good insights. Of course he does.
Good idea. Good plug. Yes.
But what I've heard previously about Lowry and Rodriguez, and one of the reasons I was not as excited about them taking over as the average fan, is I heard that Mark Lowry has kind of a little boy quality to him. He's like, gee whiz, and he's kind of a gee whiz guy, and he throws out some really bad ideas. And that Alex Rodriguez, we know Alex, he's an egomaniac.
Yeah.
He wants to be the man. He wants people to look at him. He wants to be the guy in the locker room talking to people. So I don't know how that plays if things go south. Listen, they have time to correct this. They have time to get back in the right place. They have a time. I don't think seeding matters all that much if you're in the top 6 seed. They could go have a great playoff run and all this could die down. But I don't know how Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry will react if they feel like something's wrong and the team's underachieving.
Well, and again, it comes back to the as we've seen all the time. Coaches get fired, it doesn't matter what time of year and everything else. And Chris Finch has developed quite a resume here, and I think he's a pretty heady guy. At the same time, I'm not saying that he's going to get the boot, but when you watch Mark Malone, the former Denver coach in the broadcast area, there's a couple other ones around. That's why I was asking the question about Alex Rodriguez, because I'm thinking these guys aren't going to mess around. I don't. Maybe they will. They might be just fans. They might be going, no, we got to make a change. I don't like the communication or lack thereof that's going on in this basketball team right now. May not be Chris's fault, but I mean, we got to change this, because this is not going to be acceptable if we get booted in the first round this year.
Right. Alex and Mark brought in Tim Connolly. I think they're very connected to Connolly. I think they respect him. Now, let's say Connolly also had his first big miss with the Wolves with Dillingham. He's made a lot of great moves. That was a complete whiff. Mm-hmm. But you have Finch relying on veterans, not playing the young guys very much. I don't really have a problem with that, but management might. This might be the first time we get to see Laurie and Rodriguez, how they think and how aggressive they're going to be, because I don't blame Finch for everything that's going on, but they might.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We don't know that, and that they could have the final say about that. Well, again, Connolly, thankfully there's a basketball guy in there who's got common sense.
But he works for Laurie and Rodriguez.
He does. He's there. He's not the boss. He doesn't ultimately make the final decision. Well, in the midst of the Super Bowl talk and what happened with the Wolves over the weekend. Oh yeah, there's a little thing called the Winter Olympics going on. We all watched the situation with Lindsey Vonn, where she just tried her damnedest to fight through torn ACL and hit the gate with her ski pole, and that was the end of that. She had another surgery, I think, yesterday, and a gutty effort, but it wasn't to be. How interested are you? You've covered a number of them. In terms of where we are with the Olympics, beyond any of the political statements that are being made from a U.S. standpoint, and are you more anxious to watch the hockey right now as much as anything going forward?
To me, Vonn was the most interesting story at the Olympics. In fact, I just wrote a column about it because my first Olympics was in Turin, Italy, and I remember taking the bus all the way up to the Alps to watch her, I think San Sicario, to watch her compete, and I watched her fall. And Mark, there's television captures sports to an incredible degree, but it doesn't capture altitude changes. And what's hard to understand if you haven't been there, you're standing at the bottom of a mountain by the finish line. You have to cock your head back 90 degrees to see to the top of the gate. These people aren't skiing. They are throwing themselves off the side of a mountain onto an ice sheet and trying to survive. They are coming straight downhill, and when they fall, it's dangerous as hell. And to understand the danger of it, and then watch Lindsey Vonn at 41 with no ACL, willing to do that, to throw herself off the mountain, I have even more admiration for her for trying it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And even now, with the more of the sophisticated drones that they have to follow the skiers, watching it in person is something that it's breathtakingly dangerous and amazing to watch these athletes that continue to do that and going 70, 80 miles an hour down a sheet of ice, trying to win a gold medal and putting their life in peril. And that's what they do. But it's been quite a run for Lindsey, and remember her days from going back to Buck Hill. I mean, she's done it all, and I think she's still a champion in every respect. That is for sure. The U.S. hockey team, well represented, from Bill Guerin, the GM, to a number of players on the team, including Quinn Hughes and Matt Boldy from the Wild, and teammates, opponents become teammates during this time. They haven't started yet, but it by all accounts, it looks like the U.S. and Canada, without Russia there, will likely be playing for the gold medal. But we'll see how that all works out. But I think there'll be a lot of fascination about watching this level of hockey. Again, when the pros are taking over.
Yeah, another Olympic moment, sitting next to Michael Russo at the Vancouver Olympics, watching the Canada-U.S. gold medal game won by Crosby. Just incredible hockey. And, it's kind of like the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
These guys are pros, and they grind through the long season, and you're not going to be at your best over 82 games, and just a lot of it is survival and trying to win close games. And then all of a sudden you're put in a situation where it's not about money. It's not about your next contract. It's not about getting through the season. You are playing for your country, and it's all on the line right now. And watching these guys with the pride they take and the way they play that game, and also on more open ice and with less, stupid goony stuff, and you're just playing pure hockey, it's as good as it gets.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Even time difference or not, we'll figure it out. Just check your local listings, as they say. But I think everyone's really interested in seeing the hockey. And then once the Wild come back and the moratorium's off on any other moves that, Bill Guerin can make. I mean, they keep hearing rumors he may make one more move to kind of solidify things, to make the big push, because the Wild are right there. They were playing as good a hockey as anybody in the NHL before the break. And yet, I don't think they're satisfied with necessarily their overall roster. They're going to get Brodin back at some point, but they look like they're cooking right now.
They could probably use one more center. Somebody who's good on faceoffs, somebody who can center, one of maybe the third or fourth line, but they're really good. And the Quinn Hughes trade, it's the reverse Herschel Walker trade. It's what the Vikings thought they were getting when they traded for Herschel Walker. This so guy is so good.
I've compared people. It's not a preposterous statement. I watched Bobby Orr. You did. And I thought, I'm not saying he's Bobby Orr, but Bobby Orr's strength was you could never knock him off the puck.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't, necessarily the fastest skater. You just said, go check that guy. Good luck. You couldn't. And that's the way when I watch Hughes, I feel almost the same way. You can't get a good shot at him.
You
can't knock him off the puck.
He reminds me of Barry Sanders.
That's interesting.
He can he can spin. He has incredible body control. He has spin. He has burst. So he's like a point guard. He's like a great point guard, but also a great running back at the same time. I saw a great stat someplace that the Wild defensive scoring ranked like 26th or something in the NHL before they had Hughes. It's number one since they got Hughes. He has improved the 5-on-5 dramatically. He's improved their power play dramatically. He's improved their depth dramatically. And now, man, when they go to overtime, how are you going to beat a team that has Kaprizov, Boldy, and Quinn Hughes on the ice together when they have space to operate?
Now, can they do it when there's no overtime and no shootouts? And that's could be in the playoffs against Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. That's just the way it's structured. You're going to end up playing one of those teams in the first round, and that's going to be the key. Is are you going to be good enough to get past that, even psychologically, just to get past that first round and to have this town just get on fire with the Wild this spring, because they could really make some noise, I think, with this hockey team if the goaltending holds up.
They have high-end talent. They have defensive depth. The real question is, are the goalies going to be good enough?
A couple of other quick topics before I get you out of here. I'm going to say poor Nico Medved.
I know.
Head coach of the
I was
Gopher
there on
Bat.
Sunday.
I heard you were.
Yep.
I'm watching it. I'm going, wait a minute. They just beat 10th ranked Michigan State at home last week. I saw that player from Michigan State got kicked out for the rest.
Yep.
He's gone. Fears, is that it?
Fears.
Yeah, he's out. And then they blanked the bed against the teams that aren't very good and they're equal. We know the story. They don't have any depth. They lost some starters, but they're able to close. They don't seem to get discouraged when they come back after the next game. They know who they are. It's just too bad because as we're getting closer to March Madness, it's that feeling again like you're not invited to the party, and it's going to take a little while. But I think Nico's the right guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way the team is being coached. They just don't have enough depth. They don't have enough talent. And Maryland, Crocker Johnson and Tyson are their best players, and they just didn't do anything offensively. No.
And if Crocker Johnson makes that layup at the end, they probably win the game.
Correct.
So it's frustrating. What I thought that was the tipping point of the season on Sunday. They win that. They're 5-8, 2-game winning streak, easy schedule ahead. Maybe they have a chance to get to 500. Get to 500 in the Big Ten, you have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. 4-9, I think the season's over. I don't think it's Nico's fault. He just needs more depth. Yeah, he does. And finally, it's that time of year where, folks, if you get a chance to go down to Fort Myers and watch a little baseball, spring training is upon us in a very short period of time. We know the off-the-field situation with the Twins, but I want to talk to Jim Souhan, baseball guy through and through, about what the team's going to look like on the field. We know they got Pablo Lopez, they got Joe Ryan, they got Bailey Ober, they got Simeon Woods Richardson, they got a couple other guys that can start. Is Cole Sands going to be the closer? What's their everyday lineup going to look like? Are they going to have enough depth to kind of get through it? What's the new manager going to be like? I say hope springs eternal, but at the same time for the Twins in this division, what realistic opportunities are this team going to have to kind of
get people interested in watching them, especially early in the season.
It's funny. I covered a lot of bad Twins teams, and most of the bad Twins teams I covered had decent position players, decent bullpen, not enough starting pitching.
Right.
Rich Robertson was their ace at one time. Okay. This is completely opposite. They got lots of starting pitching. They have high-end starting pitching. They have all-star caliber starting pitching. I think Ober will bounce back just fine. And they have a lot of young arms. If they can get 2 or 3 of the young arms to come along, whether it's Zebby or Festa or one of the guys they traded for,
right,
they have a chance of having one of the better rotations in baseball, believe it or not.
It's crazy to think about that.
We have no idea if the lineup's going to produce. We have no idea if this bullpen can survive. So I think they just desperately need Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, Matt Wallner, those guys to turn into stars. Those guys turn into stars, then you can trade for a bullpen piece, and all of a sudden you might get to July and say, we have a chance. But, man, they have so many ifs that have to turn into sure things.
Does Royce Lewis need a hitting coach more or a psychologist more going into this season?
Okay. Listen, the guy was he was number 1 pick in the draft.
Yes.
He was killed the minor leagues. He came up here. He killed it here. He was one of the big reasons they made the playoffs and won the playoff series in 2003. It's fascinating the way baseball works because I never liked the idea that they're baseball gods, but Royce Lewis proved to us that they're baseball gods. Immediately after saying he didn't believe in slumps, he went in a slump that has lasted a year and a half.
Oops.
He's just got to get back to he's at his best, he does everything right. He hits outside pitches hard to right field. He turns on inside pitches and hits them out of the ballpark to left field. He can hit it to center field. When he's right, he is the ideal hitter. He has in his head that he needs to start his swing early or he needs to cheat. His footwork has gotten off. If he can settle down and go back to being what he was, he elevates the entire franchise.
We've both been around a lot of Hall of Famers with the Twins. A lot of them go back down to spring training, including, the Rod Carews, Molitor,
Kadire, Latroy.
Yeah,
all those guys.
He has plenty of mentors.
Sometimes you can have too many.
Yeah, that get to plant that seed in your head because I'm thinking it's just, maybe it's like a swing coach in golf. I mean, a guy goes from, being competing every weekend for a championship. Next thing you know, he's not making a cut. I feel that way with Royce sometimes that he's just can't figure it out right now.
You can't have too many voices in your head. You really can't. You got to pick one. Torrey Hunter went from being a guy who didn't know what a slider was to being an all-star hitter. And he did it after he stopped listening to 90% of the people who were talking to him. And you know who he listened to? He listened to Rick Springman, who was like his AAA hitting coach. And then Bobby Bonilla. He'd send tapes to Bobby Bonilla and Bonilla would tell him what to do. Everybody's got to find their own guy and just rely on that person and stick with it. Because if you listen to the hitting coach, the manager, the front office, your teammates, your high school buddies, you're going to be paralyzed when you get in the box.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that the Twins can at least get off to a good start. I think the fans are. We know how the fans feel about the Polas.
And you know what? They're right.
Yeah, they are right. I can't argue with them. I mean, and prove it. I mean, you're going to have to earn their trust to get back in that ballpark this summer, no matter how nice the weather is or who they're playing. But there's a long ways to go. Jim, thanks so much for spending some time. There's a lot of ground to cover today. Start with the Super Bowl, but appreciate you as always.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Prince.
Yeah, Mr. Prince, my God, I could tell stories about Sid forever and ever. Thanks for listening to another edition of Rosen Sports Monday. Have a great day, everyone.